Hey, welcome back to the LinnFit Coaching Podcast. I'm Coach Caleb here with Matty D. And then, we were talking about a fun topic today, maybe a little controversial, as we talk with our fit friends and our less fit friends. We get in this little debate of who gets injured more? So this will be a fun topic. So let's dive into this topic and let's see where this goes. All right, so I love getting here on this podcast with you, Matt, because we just get to sort of freestyle. This is unscripted. We just kind of love to get on a topic and then just talk it out and see if we can come up with practical things that can really help people with this, because that's the biggest goal with this podcast. Put free content out there that can practically help you with your normal daily life to move better towards fitness and performance. So big question is, do fit people get injured more often than inactive people?
Sometimes yes. It's
bold statement.
It's kind of crazy. You've experienced this recently, we all do as we're working out and trying to maintain or improve our fitness, but you just tweak a little muscle here, you're feeling some tightness maybe, different places, and so it does happen, like injuries and things that can actually set you back from the goals you're wanting to achieve do happen kind of regularly to fit people. It's not something that is unheard of at all. So
it's kind of a funny thing. Some people, especially when you're young, right? You get into fitness because you're like, I am invincible. If I do enough exercise or I eat certain things right or eat right often enough, then I'll get out unscathed. I won't get hurt. I'll do whatever I want and I'll live a long time. I'll defy age. I found the fountain of youth. I'm going to stay like this forever. No one would ever say that, right? But we think it whenever we're younger, right? Because you just don't know. You haven't experienced the natural occurrence of this thing called aging. And so it just happens whenever you're being an athlete or just someone who is regularly physically active. You're putting miles on the car, really. And so with like any vehicle, you just have to maintain it. Like any house, you have to maintain it. If you don't take care of it, it breaks down every now and then. It doesn't mean that the whole thing breaks. It'll last a really long time, but you get little dings here and there. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, we don't wear out like car parts as long as we take care of ourselves. But what about I've sometimes had conversations like maybe I have a little minor injury or something that I caught myself in. And to be clear, 2021 was a kind of an injury-prone year for me myself. I had a QL injury, which might have been related to the spine, just referring outwards. And so QL is like this big muscle that wraps around your lower back. It's part of the whole system of muscles there that helps stabilize your lower back and everything. And it got inflamed enough that I couldn't even bend over and pick something up. And within 2 weeks I was cleared up and I kind of phased myself back into exercise. And I was fine. I haven't had any problem with it since. But then, I was messing around on an obstacle course, trying to be the next Ninja Warrior, and I strained my lat, just a couple of months ago.
You were well on your way to being the next Ninja Warrior. That lat just really held you back.
Yeah, totally. It was my next thing. Or a little thing I get a little bit tight in the hips, and so it makes it hard to squat for a little while. So little things like that. Just I always find ways to be fit, but little dings happen. And then I have a conversation with one of my neighbors, and he has done little more than walk his whole life, and and he's tried to do maybe some kettlebell deadlifts with up to a 16 kg kettlebell. So he's not lifting anywhere close to anything heavy. And he's like, I've never ever been injured ever. I don't even know what that's like, And so am I crazy? Am I crazy for exercising? Am I making myself more resistant or making myself more broken? And so you probably argue both ways, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you mentioned that you're kind of like a house, and I kind of like to talk about our bodies that way. It's an investment when you're trying to be physically fit. You're trying to keep yourself active, and so it's not just for the here and now. It's for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I think that the more physically fit, the more muscle and bone density and different things you can build while you're trying to pursue different goals is going to help you so much more in the long term than someone that maybe does a few kettlebell deadlifts or maybe walks every once in a while. Mm-hmm. You're just going to be more apt to deal with life and different stressors, whatever they may be.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay, let's go a little bit deeper in that. Like by being physically active, by building your strength, or specifically by doing resistance training. Resistance training in the sense of like you're lifting something, some kind of load, or you're putting some kind of external load on your body that you have to put effort into moving. So how does that develop you or prepare your system? Your system as in your body, it's your body structures, your hormones, everything. How does it prepare you for different life challenges?
Yeah, I think it'll just develop your bone density. So later on in life, as you're aging, you're going to have stronger bones that are able to actually, last longer in old age. You're not going to develop some of these different diseases, or you may not have some of these, I feel like so many people know an old person that's fallen and broken their hip.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're not saying that resistance training always is going to fix something like that, but it certainly couldn't hurt.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you may know more about like some of the hormones or different things that it may help with.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I like that you said about the bone density. That's a huge thing as we get older. Like you fall and you break something, because the sad thing is it's just part of, the science of aging, gerontology. This is, once you hit somewhere between 25 and 30, you kind of hit your peak bone mass. And at that point, your body starts getting less and less efficient at creating new bone. Laying down more density, more strength of your bones. And so it's like, in some sense, it's all downhill from there. And all that to say, your bones last a really long time. I mean, we're living upper 80s and 90s now for many people. And so to stop building fresh bone at somewhere around age 30, it's going to last a lot longer. But all that to say, if you're not doing things from an early age, or even putting any resistance to slow that process, if you don't use it, you lose it. And so your body won't retain any kind of bone mass much. Like it will waste away faster if you're not going to put any kind of a external stressor on it. Mm-hmm. I like to use an illustration of like a tree. If you put a tree in a completely docile, windless, like zero wind kind of environment, the roots won't go that deep, and it'll be super fragile. But the trees that are in like tropical places near the coast, those things are tough. You can have gale force winds, and that tree is bent over, but it's not coming out of the ground. And those are the strongest trees, And so it's just fascinating. Like you put something under stress, it will respond to that stress and come back stronger. And same thing goes with our muscles. And so every time we give ourselves a stimulus, as long as it's not like an over stress, it's good to sort of overreach off and on to keep your body adapting, to keep your body, shock it every once in a while, to let it know like, hey, stay ready kind of thing. But if you're continually off and on kind of pushing yourself, not only to limit, but maintaining sort of a standard of fitness, then you're prepared for so many different challenges, sudden challenges, expect the unexpected kind of thing. And so hormonally it helps regulate, like physical activity and good nutrition and all that. Like working out, it helps regulate your sleep rhythms. It helps keep a lean mass, which keeps like muscle and bone mass. It helps keep your metabolism higher for longer, which I've had good conversations with college professors on this of like, it's an interesting question. Yes, it is true that we do slow a little bit or gradually metabolically with age, where we just become less efficient. And so it's easier to retain excess weight or body fat that we don't want. But there's also a lifestyle factor to that, where people just stop moving as much. We don't play as much sport. We're not doing as much running. Like kids, they sprint everywhere they go. They love it, but we do less and less. We become more and more sedentary. And so naturally we lose lean mass, muscle, and bone. And so that leads to a slower metabolism. And so it means eating too much food adds on extra pounds faster than we want it to. But that regular physical activity is going to help us so much with good, like testosterone, estrogen, like the female hormone cycle is going to be better regulated with regular physical activity and exercise, and even resistance training. It's especially important for women, as postmenopausal women have a high risk of osteoporosis. And so if you're doing everything you can of building up that bone mass now while you're younger, then you have a chance at having no problems with your bones and stuff later on. And so big time for hormones, but also I love to get into sort of what about the daily challenges of life, the things that your commute, your playing with your kids someday, or the random fight you might have on the street. Lord willing, that doesn't happen. But or like you feel like arm wrestling your friend. The random things. How is some kind of resistance training or exercise or some level of fitness going to prepare you to have confidence mentally and physically to be able to handle those?
Yeah, I think one thing that you've mentioned previously is being stronger and just having that muscle and that ability to move something that is heavier. You may not always necessarily need, that 1 rep max, heaviest as you can go, like type of energy, but having that capability makes everything else beneath that easier. So it makes everything else in your life, whether that is playing with your kids or arm wrestling a buddy at the bar for a few dollars or whatever it is, it's gonna just help you in all of those areas, because it's gonna be a lot less than all the work you've already done, both physically and mentally. I think a part of this that we haven't mentioned too much yet is just the mental side of consistency and discipline that training can take, and just knowing that, I can work through this injury, or I can continue to train and get better. I can reach my goals, and just the positive benefits that has compared to not exercising. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much in that, man. It's fascinating seeing that the mental confidence that someone can have whenever they have a good maintenance of fitness, and it's a great life teacher for sure. You understand that, wow, I can grit through this short-term workout, and that teaches you a life lesson of like, sometimes it takes grit to get through whatever life's given you right now. And like when you're going through a grueling workout, it teaches you like, you know what, you don't, you get in this for the benefits because you come out wiser, you come out better on the other end. And so you take it, all right, I'm going to take it 1 rep at a time. I'm going to take it 1 breath at a time, 1 step at a time. Just trying to keep one foot in front of the other. I mean, so much, there's so much depth in this, I feel like. I like where this is going.
Yeah. One question I had, I don't know if you'll know the answer to this or not, but when you're doing a lot of resistance training, whether that's like a deadlift or a squat, you're also training your CNS, your central nervous system. So how does training that and working that kind of impact you as you age?
That's a great question. Man, impacting you as you age. I mean, the thing is, like, strong people are resistant to a lot of things. So let's put it this way. You know, if you never do anything ever, you never do any kind of exercise ever, you're at high risk of chronic disease, the kind of stuff that you don't feel until you're diagnosed with it. You know? So, for example, like, maybe I get a few dings in here and there. Like, my joints hurt every once in a while, but I generally don't have pain. I have great posture when I bend down to pick things up because my muscles are strong enough to resist the curvature of my spine. What happens whenever you don't have enough strength to pick something up, or it feels really heavy, you compromise your position in order to make it easier. Does that make it good for your spine? Not necessarily. You're creating shear forces that really break down the discs between your vertebrae. And so maybe I don't have a back injury ever, but the guy next to me who never had any problems suddenly starts having pain shooting down his leg. He doesn't know where it came from, and then he goes to the doctor, and the doctor's like, "You got a degenerative disc problem." He's like, "What? How did that happen?" He's like, "Well, you just do some more tests. We see some other specialists. We see you just have zero core strength, and so you're compromising all over the place. All the pressure's coming to your spine." Mm-hmm. And so, as we age, like, doing those things that are working hard on your CNS, is you're able to have better coordination. You're able to have better recruitment of your muscles. You're able to stay functional for longer because your body knows these patterns. You know how to do it as long as you keep doing it into old age. It makes you resistant to the sudden things or the slowly degenerative things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense with like what you said about the more muscle recruitment. Makes you less likely to compromise, you know, in those positions like you mentioned. But yeah, it's good.
I don't know. It's a fascinating thing. And so, I mean, I see it all the time. You know, maybe you have the strength to pick something up, but do you have the strength to maintain a good posture? Mm-hmm. By doing some focused resistance training with a good coach, you really work on sound postures that become a way of life. And if you maintain that strength, it's going to help you resist a lot of things down the road. You may not feel pain now, but if you're compromising your position now, at some point, you're going to feel the degeneration that's been happening to that joint or many joints for a long time. Or you get stiff in areas that didn't need to be stiff because your patterns were off.
Right.
So, good stuff, man. This is fascinating to talk about. I mean, I don't even know if we're still on the same topic sometimes. We just kind of go on these rabbit trails, but it's fun to sort of see, like, man. So, I mean, do you get injured more? The funny answer is, yeah, you get dings. You know, you get dinged up sometimes. But in large part, I'm thankful that, you know, by staying physically active, I can be preventing the chronic diseases that are totally lifestyle related, that don't need to be there in this world. If everyone cared about what they eat, didn't eat too much, and stayed regularly physically active, a lot of the stuff that's plaguing our world right now in the developed world would maybe be almost non-existent. So I'd say keep exercising. If you haven't done it, give it a shot. Find something you're consistent at. But to the folks who are like, you know what, I don't feel like having any pain. I don't want to do any kind of exercise. I mean, what can we say to someone who's never been injured and is afraid of getting injured because their best friend, who was a workoutaholic, ended up getting hurt? What can we say to that person?
I would just say that, I mean, it's possible to get injured, but there are a lot of benefits like we've talked about. And if you start doing things the right way and you take care of yourself, you make sure you warm up properly, you're cooling down properly, you're eating well, you can really limit the possibility of getting injured.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that we can control are things that could potentially lead to injury. And so if that is something that you are really afraid of and you don't want to, even tempt fate by exercising, you don't want to get injured at all, so you don't want to exercise at all, there are ways to really minimize your risk to the point that the benefits really will outweigh the costs. So really oftentimes, a lot of times the injuries that an active person faces are it's not directly due to the exercise itself. There was some kind of imbalance in the program itself, which may be that individual's fault, or maybe hopefully not the coach's fault, whoever is doing the programming, but also maybe like they just never rested. I've consulted with CrossFit gyms and other functional fitness gyms where people are working out 6 days a week doing like 9 out of 10 difficulty, 10 out of 10 kind of difficulty type of workouts. They're going all out. I'm like, dude, you're just going to burn yourself in the ground. You got to take a break in there somewhere. Where's your recovery at? So maybe your recovery's off, your nutrition's off, your sleep's off. You like those controllables that you mentioned. Those things can lead to injury. Even my recent injury or inflammation in my hip, was because I just wanted to get strong in the squat. I did nothing but squat for a long time, squatting like 2 to 3 days a week, and didn't care about any of the pulls or anything. I hadn't deadlifted in months, and then I got tight adductors, and then my hip started hurting. So my own fault. That was my own programming fault, where I put so much attention on other clients that we served, other athletes that we're programming for, that I just didn't think of myself at all. And so that was a rebuke to myself, like, dude, think about yourself some. So I'll just say, like, yeah, good point. That means, if you have a friend who got badly injured, maybe it's a good chance to ask him why. Like, what do you think led to that? Like, well, I just went from a lot or a little or nothing to a lot, and then I got hurt. Like, okay, maybe ease into it. Maybe find a good coach. Sign up with us, LinnFit Coaching, for some online program and get you started. Work on your nutrition. Find the low-hanging fruit, something that helps you get started today. Yeah. Good stuff. Man, fun talking about this. I don't know. What do you think? Did we find a conclusion? Do you think you figured out, who's right, what's safer, never doing anything at all or doing some kind of physical activity? That here at LinnFit Coaching, we are all about being active. So, man, I hope this added some value to you, helped you understand it a little bit more, and I hope that you found some practical things you can get from this for why it's good to add some resistance training, some kind of physical activity into your regular routine today, and figure out the best balance for you. So, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.